So what's the reaction? Maybe just bishop b3. I think it's a move that can be very bad, and I don't even think that white have this much of a choice to even think in this position. It's a safe call, yeah. Bishop b3 is played. Bishop g4 is a reaction. Maybe rook can go to f1, or maybe we may consider moving the d4 knight away, for example, knight f3. Because when black plays rook d8, the two knights on the d file will not feel too comfortable. White maybe would like to play something like e4, but the c1 h6 diagonal is weakened a little bit. Has some tactical motives for black. I think... Oh, and e4 can be played right now, of course, because of e6. e6, queen e3, the exchange, then bishop h6, maybe. Maybe it was working, but I don't really think so. e6 is played, so knight is forced away, goes to f4. At least some exchanges for white, this may help. So what's the reaction? Black has almost an extra minute in terms of time. In this game, that's a huge factor, of course. One more exchange is about to happen. I think the g4 bishop has nowhere to go. Maybe after h3, then maybe g4 is needed. The exchange will happen at some point. That's helpful. Bishop f5. So it's like black prevents the h3 move. Maybe e4 can be played. No? Yeah, that's it. e4 is played. Maybe black even lost one tempo actually. Now the d4 square is weakened, so maybe knight d4 is on the cards. So there is some idea for black. Oh, and actually the c1 h7 h6 diagonal starts to hurt. Bishop h6 is threatened now, so knight d3 is played. So white find an active move to defend from this threat and not lose the tempo. I wonder if black is counting knight d4. I don't think that this would be a good idea because of knight takes d4. What else can black count? Maybe queen a5 or I think queen a5 looks pretty natural. Knight d4 is played. I think that's blunder. Knight takes d4 is good for white. I think, or maybe not. Knight takes d4 will meet by bishop takes e2 actually. I think that was still working for white. Knight takes d4, bishop takes e2, knight takes c5. Maybe black can even play bishop h6 check first. King b1, bishop takes d1, and then I think white had a move knight takes e6. I think this was actually working. But white obviously didn't have time to counter all this, played queen f1. And once again, I may be mistaken, so maybe that's the correct move. h3 is played, so white is desperate to find some exchanges. And that's actually what happens. Queen goes to e3, but this doesn't really matter. Black will not win the e4 pawn. Oh, I doubt this move. I would definitely prefer queen takes f3. I don't think that this pawn structure is actually better. e4 pawn was like weak, but not this weak because black didn't have a way to attack it. Queen f2 is played, so that's a success for white. We have an exchange. This endgame is not really looking so good. I don't think that white actually had to exchange the rooks. I would prefer c3, king c2, and maybe use this good pawn structure in the queen side. This pawn structure was good in terms of the rook ending, but In terms of the ending without rooks, it's not good. It suddenly becomes bad. And now we can see why the bishop is much stronger piece than the knight. So it's an absolute dominance. Yeah, bishop will just go to d6 and cut the knight off. We'll have to go back to f2, but it's just winning some time. It's a desperation. Now white almost don't have moves, and b5 will be met by bishop c5. At least we have a knight d3 reaction. The knight f2, so maybe black will have to find something. I would maybe play h4 and just wait for white to move. b6 is played. Maybe this is still fine, but I wonder if this was necessary. This is a little bit of a weakness. h4 I think is winning now. Yeah, just h4, and white don't have a move. White may try to like catch the king on the h3. For example, play knight d3, yeah, now king f2. Oh, e4 is played, wow. e4 I think is a bad move. Oh, and king f4 is even worse, I think. Black had to maybe move the bishop away. Oh, and that's a blunder for white. Maybe it's not. Maybe we can play knight f2. No, c5 is played for some reason. Knight c3. King e5, why not king g3? I think black was playing very wrong, but in the end it worked. g6 is the worst possible place for knight because now we can't even force the e4 pawn to move to e3, and this was really helpful. And once again, knight couldn't be positioned worse. And it's an easy win for black. Knight d2 check can be played. Knight e5 is worse because of king g3. And that's the end of that. Sad start for the tournament for Fatality. Maybe her sister can get the revenge. So she plays against Becker 65-65. The opponent has like 300 more rating. But Pinkamena has 2 more pawns actually. I don't think that it's going to matter because white's attack looks really strong. It has to be enough, I think. No development for white's pieces. I think even rook e8 can be played. Given up the f2 pawn, I don't think that there would be any continuation for that activity for black. The f file will open and it will end. Rook f4 is played. This move is more safe, but now maybe there is a queen a7 move. Or queen f8, rather. Queen e7 is played, but now rook e1 will be played. I think queen f8 was better, actually. Queen e7 might be losing after rook e1. Maybe queen takes e1 will be possible, but I don't think that this is working because of queen takes e1, rook takes f4, and at least we can play queen e5 check, rook f6, and queen a7 check. And yeah, that's what happens when you don't develop pieces. Sadly. White is thinking, rook d3 is definitely not the best move in this position. I think black has to play d5. So give up this pawn just to play bishop f5 to win one tempo. I think this is a huge factor in this kind of positions. d6 is played. Maybe this move has different idea of playing queen e5. Now we can, for example, count like bishop f5 maybe, then queen e5. Of course we'll lose the bishop. There's no question, but maybe we have this much pawns that it doesn't really cost too much. We can play queen e5 and hope for the best. I think it's working actually. Bishop e4 is played. Wow. Now this is not gonna work because of rook f7 double check, and it's just total destruction. White didn't see it. Rook f7 was just not only winning the game, this was just pure domination. Now rook h3 can be counted. But I'm not this convinced that white will win this game, as I was before the rook takes f3 check move. f4 is played. Sacrifice, yeah, that's it. Now if black plays king take f4, there will be queen g3 and queen e1 maneuver, for example. Queen takes g4, I think, puts more problems for white, but there has to be a checkmate, definitely. I wonder if white managed to find it. Rook g3 is played. So there is some choice for black. Black actually can play king h4 and there will be no checks for white. Well, king takes f4 I think is not a good move because it destroys all of the cover. Now there has to be some easy ways for white. Something like queen f3, then rook g... Oh no, rook g5 is not working actually. Maybe it's not this easy. Well, at least white can play queen e2 check, then rook f3 check. And just win the queen and the game. Queen d5 and queen g5 is also possible. Queen e3 is played, yeah, that's the same. Rook f3, and it's done, yeah. Sadly, Pinkamena loses her game, and we are going back to Fatality. Oh, Fatality is dominating her opponent. You'll like to see that. Now we'll just play like a4, a5. Just do whatever we like. I don't think that there are really some chances for black in this position. So Fatality moves the queen away. Maybe c6 check was an idea. But I think that pawn on c5 is placed pretty well, and we don't have to make this kind of move. Of course, the bishop are different squared, but I don't think that this is going to save black, because white just have too many pawns. h5 is played, a4. We're just rushing to win. Queen h4. Black are hoping for white to blunder a checkmate, but once again, the d4 pawn is now attacked. So we're starting to have a game that is maybe even competitive now. f4 is played, yeah, we are lucky to have this kind of move. After bishop takes f4, I think we can just play rook takes f4. Now pawns will be enough. I'd like to think. Oh no, we'll actually be playing g3. Yeah, g3 is good. f4 is a nice move, yeah. White are really lucky to have this kind of move at their disposal. Queen f6 is played. The d4 pawn is hanging once again. But we'll just play queen b4, I think. Threatening a5 as well. Maybe c6 check. Queen c3 is kind of like this move. h4 has the same idea, at least. Now we can just play a5. And I don't think that black will have some counterplay. Bishop takes a5 is definitely not working. But maybe it's worth trying. I don't even think so, because white will move the king to h1, the bishop to f3. I think black are about to play bishop takes a5 still. At this we have to, like, die like a man. Yeah, that's it. King h1 and bishop f3. That's the end of that. No more joy for black. Yeah, white found it. And it's done. We'll just play queen c7, I bet. Queen b4. Not the most obvious way to win, but it's still gonna be working, yeah. No defense from c7. The game finishes. And we are going to Pinkamena game. That's a real mess, I would say. A lot of pieces on the board. How you really count this kind of position? It's looking quite difficult. Rook h7 is played, and white is playing bishop g6. Black can try rook h6, trying to catch the bishop. Rook g7 is a rook blunder. Yeah, that's it. I believe that Pinkamena will convert this. So let's go and watch the Fatality game. She has some weird opening. What was this? This was a Caracan. I don't recognize this variation, maybe because I'm not playing it too often. So now we have the structure like from the French opening, but we have our white squared bishop out, and that's the idea of the Caracan defense. One of the main ideas. Oh, and bishop b4 is blundered. No, bishop b4 was winning. Oh, fatality. This was really help. When you take the berserk, you like to find this kind of solutions early in the game. Oh, and you definitely don't like this one. When you have 1 minute and no additional time, this is very difficult to defend in this kind of positions because you have to be accurate. You may be knowing that your position is victorious, but it doesn't help if you don't find all the necessary moves. And I'm not even sure that Black's position is better. I think that this sacrifice can really be working. You see that's quite a, I'll not say very typical idea, but you can see this from time to time. Now knight g5 can be played. Oh, this becomes really scary. Well, at least after knight g5 we'll have the queen g6 move. So we will not really face too much trouble. Yeah, the exchange happens, white take on e6, we take on f6, and no material advantage for anyone. So we have equality, but a very weird one. 3 pawns for the knight. Which one is better? Usually in the end games, minor piece looks much stronger, but I wonder if it's in this endgame particularly, because white's pawns look really strong, and yeah, white just didn't have to blunder on the e8. Why you have to rush and play this fast when your opponent is low on time? White had I'll say it once again that when you take Berserk and you play in a tournament with an additional time, so 3+2, that's the case in this exact tournament, and you take Berserk, you have no additional time, no 1 additional second, just you have 1.5 minute and that's it. So White had to play like careful and will eventually win in this game. Because Blackwell just didn't have time to convert this difficult endgame. And now White blundered and started thinking when it's looking like it's too late. Not only Black lost a rook, they lost an exchange. Also the E8 knight looks pretty dead. It will be very difficult to save it. King f8 is played. Oh, and White don't even defend it. Why not just play bishop h5, for example? I think this is too much. Extra rook, extra minor piece also. Knight takes h5. Was it really necessary? Well, we have seen so many games where fatality was just losing the unlosable, but I don't think that this is going to be one of them. This is just too easy. Bishop d1, then we'll just play knight c4, or not even a bishop d1 move, so white is not even defending in any way. Praying for these pawns to be the solution. Oh, and actually this becomes scary. f6 is played. Wow, this may actually work. King e6 was already not maybe losing, but causing some trouble. Please, Fatality, be careful. You'll be very tilted after this loss. King e7. Rook f6 now can be played. Now White will sacrifice both pawns, I think. No, it wasn't. We'll play Rook f5, Rook b5. No, Black is not going for the pawns. Black is going for the checkmate. Oh, knight on d8 actually defends the f7 square. This is helpful. What is going on? What is Black? This is such a funny way to win, actually. So Black blocked White's pawns just not to count the d5 move. I don't, looks like you see this is a viable idea when you are playing and you have very low time. You try to prevent the unlikely pre-moves. Just you see, for example, your opponent has a pawn on the second rank, and he can promote a queen, and you even defend this square. So this is not an actual threat. But you can't play with your pre-moves because anytime your opponent can just promote the queen, and if you make a pre-move, he'll have a queen, you see? So that's why Fatality... This is not the actual same scenario, but it's a little bit alike. So Fatality tried to block the pawn just to know what moves will her opponent make. So your opponent no longer has any choice, has to move the king, and you can play with your pre-moves. But but actually she needed such a long route to block these pawns, so I didn't think this was worth it. But you see, the winner is a winner, can be judged. Oh, Vasily Ivanchuk is playing against Fatality. Looks like Vasily Ivanchuk really has some rough times, having a rating of 1800. Being like iconic player. Yeah, that's funny. Seems like Vasily became so bad at chess that his name is even spelled in a lowercase. This will be a huge win for Fatality. This guy was almost a world champion. f5. Oh, knight takes c5 can be played now. That's not the blunder that you expect from a world-class grandmaster. I'm sorry. Rook takes b6 is played, actually. So this was a double blunder from black. Makes it even more funny. Bishop c8. Now knight can take... Oh, no. We can't take on c5 because the rook is hanging. Well, what can we do, actually? We can play rook b1, yeah. Now the c5 pawn is threatened. And can be easily defended because queen c7 will be faced with d6. Well, I think that this game is pretty much done in favor of Fatality. She didn't even take the berserk. Maybe was tired after the after the previous game. Just give young lady a break. And we'll do the same and go to the Pinkamena game. Oh, that's a really nice pawn structure. I play this kind of positions a lot. That's a very usual idea, to place your pawn on c3, the other pawn on e4 when the d file is opened. That's the idea that was initially found by Wilhelm Steinitz, the first world champion. Now everyone knows it. h3 is played. Actually, after this exchange that happens a couple moves ago, the d file is not open anymore because black have a weak pawn on d6, and this weakness just is a factor that gives white an advantage. I don't like the b-form. I think that the good plan for white is to make a maneuver knight f3 to h2 to f1 to e3 to control the d5 square. and not to blunder the d5 move. And that's actually what white did. Oh, and actually white didn't even... This was actually a huge blunder, because white actually lose a minor piece. So you see, that's why b4 was a bad move. I saw you, I said you that b4 is bad looking, and that's why. Look at the a3 bishop. If the pawn was still on b3, there would be no d5 move, because the queen will be attacked. You see, for one move, white had a bad standing piece, and that's actually decided the result of the game. Good job, Pinkamena. We believe that you'll win this game. Queen goes to c2, queen c4. f3 is played. Well, I think this is easy for our young champion, so we'll go to Fatality. She's 8th place. Almost recovered from the first game, I believe, that was lost. Oh, she's playing against a low-rated opponent, and this opponent actually is 3-upping her. That's strange. I think she took Berserk every time. Now she didn't. Maybe that's the end of the streak for the Alexis89. Knight goes to d2. I wonder why black don't play knight h5. I think this will be a nice exchange. That's why usually in this kind of setup, white tend to play h3. That was not the case in this game. Bishop goes to b7, h4 is played, and now the attack starts. The h5 is threatened. I hate this opening so much. I just don't like people who play like that. This is just... it seems like unfair, because you have such an easy plan, and it's always working. And black has to think and create something to prevent this kind of play, or just to know the exact moves in the opening. That's a little bit of cheating, I would say. No one likes to play against this kind of opponents. h6 is played, so black is planning to meet the h5 move with the g5. I like this kind of plan. I'm not sure if that's actually the best choice, but I think that's a decent choice for a blitz game, because you don't have to think anymore. g4 is played. So now g5 is threatened, but we can play knight e4, yeah. That's why our bishop is standing on b7. Now h5 will be met by g5, and g5 will be met by h5. So the attack is countered. And let's see if white has some more aces to show us. Seems like black's deck is full of it. Knight d7 will be played. Yeah, that's it. I think white has to exchange and queenside castle, because otherwise there are even some ideas like e5 and then d4. You don't like to have your king standing in the center. That's what actually happened. Or not. If white decide otherwise. No. White castle as I thought. And now we can safely play c5, I think. White will play c3, of course. And maybe we can think of b5 and b4, maybe. I wonder if b5 is not working because of d takes c5. But I think that that's not the case, because after d takes c5, white give up the center. We can play e5 and take some space. I don't think that the c5 pawn will really survive for long. Rook c8 is played, so that's a little bit more safe. White will play king b1, of course, yeah, that's it. Now we can play b5, then b4. That's the usual plan to attack. I don't think that we have to create some unorthodox ways, because b5 should be working very nice in our favor. h5 is not scary because we can play g5 and there is no bishop f5 pin because of e6. I think that black's position is much better. I don't see the actual counterplay for white. Now we can even exchange on e4, and I think the endgame is in our favor. But maybe we can find something better than it. That's a difficult position. Maybe a5 and then b4. Yeah, I think that's the best choice. D takes c4 is played. So Fatality likes to do it simple. Oh, f takes e4. Wow. That's weird. I think that the idea was to exchange pieces, and that was actually a nice idea. Oh, black don't defend the h6 pawn. Maybe counted something, and maybe it's a blunder. Oh no, it's not, because we'll play queen takes d3, yeah? So white play queen e3. The queen is threatened on d7. But I don't think that white's bishop actually has some good squares to go to attack the queen on the d file. Black don't like to risk it and plays queen c8. But now white can play bishop takes h6, yeah. So maybe it was time to count. Oh, this is huge actually, because now white has decent attack. We can play... No, we can't even play queen takes g4 because the rook is attacked. a6 is a waste of time, and the time is very valuable in this kind of position. Now white will play e5, and I think the game is done. Yeah. Sadly, that's it. Oh, and that's not the move that you like to make. Black definitely lose here. Bishop takes b5 is finishing. Oh, and white didn't find it. White could win the game and didn't find it, and now white will lose. That's so lucky for Fatality. Bishop takes b5 check was winning the game. That's what quite a typical combination. White was too nervous and didn't find it. Maybe it didn't solve tactics enough. Queen d1 is a checkmate. Ladies and gentlemen, we are done. And now Fatality might be somewhere on like 5th place. That's nice. Let's go to Pinkamena game now. She's 19th place. That's decent. a6 is played. So what's the opening here? I wonder. That's a Caracan defense, yeah. Looks familiar. e6. Now maybe knight e5. Black maybe would like to have played like b5. But that opportunity is already wasted. Queen c8. Knight takes e6. That's not too ambitious, to be honest. At least white defends from b5, so maybe that's a good move. Bishop e7. White have to solve the problem with the white squared bishop. King f8? What? That's a misclick, I think. Why didn't black just castle? Well, there is some idea, but I don't actually like it. c5 is played. informal. You don't like to make moves like c5 when your king is staying on f8, and now it's a knight blunder on f6. Pinkamena's position is much better. Of course. Minor piece is too much. Bishop d4 is a nice move. Now queen h5 maybe can be played. Bishop e5 instead. Black, of course, doesn't want to exchange. Knight goes to e2, planning to go to d4 maybe, or g3, or whatever. We just have, like, our position is too good. So we'll go back and stick with Fatality for some more time. She's still 8th place, what? She didn't gain a single placing despite winning the game. What that means is that if she wins now, she'll gain at least 2 places, I think. Well, that's a closed position. It's like the closed Sicilian, I would say. Oh no, it's not. The pawn was on e3. Oh, it's a reverse closed Sicilian. So white is playing like black, and black is playing like white. d4 is played. Knight a4 and d4. That's a nasty idea. And it worked. White's position looks promising. Oh, Fatality took a break, as I can see. Oh no, she didn't. What is the delay on the stream? Bishop goes to h3. The exchange happens on c5. Did white sacrifice a pawn? Bishop now can take on b2. Oh, I think black had to play bishop takes d2 and not bishop takes g2. Bishop takes b2, knight takes b2, and then d takes c5. And now the queen is pinned, and white has an extra pawn. And 3 minutes at 40 seconds, the p number. That's much time. Now black can has to play rook d8, yeah. Exchange on d6. Hope to find some chances in the end game. Rook d1 is really bad news for black. Because of course we will not exchange rooks. What we will? Why? No. The knight's endgame is definitely lost. But with the rooks on the board, we at least had some chances. Rook e6, of course, had to be played. That's a huge mistake. Now white will not even have too much problems winning this. We have to play h5 now. Because if we don't, the king e8 will be met by knight f6 check. So h5 is pretty much the only move, I would say. Or maybe knight d4. Knight d4 is played. Yeah, that's maybe nice. f4 and knight e2 now. No? Oh no, the knight on d5 is placed really good because knight e2, white will just play king like f3, knight c1, and then knight c3. Yeah, it's not going to work, Fatality. It's sad, but that's the truth. a3 is played. White didn't notice this move. a3 is a mistake, I think. Black and I play knight d4, b4, and then knight c2. And white will be forced to move his pawns. And it's not good when you play a knight endgame because these pawns can be attacked fastly by the black's king. Knight c3, what? White didn't even defend these pawns. Now black has an advantage. What kind of endgame technique is that? Knight a5, I think, is winning already. Knight a5 and then king e7. Just don't play knight c5 Fatality. Please, no. And that's the move. Knight e5 was much better. I think it was winning. King e7. Knight e4. I think the pawn endgame is lost, actually. Or maybe, no, maybe it isn't. White can play like king d3, c3, and just stand there. And it will be a draw, I think. So I have to find some other chances. I can't believe how is everyone this bad in end games. White had a position where black even didn't look like they have some chances to like do anything. And now black is winning actually. Knight g5 is awful because after h6, knight is going to go to h3 and we'll have a long maneuver to go back to the play. And black will just play knight d2 check, knight takes c4, just eat all the pawns. How is this not even competitive? I can't believe it. Knight b2 and that's it. Just don't play b5, please. Yeah, that's knight b2, that's nice. a5 and knight c4. I don't think that white actually has any chances here. I'm really worried. Maybe I better don't say these kind of things because, as we can see, everything can happen. Knight e6 is good, I think. Just to place your knight in the aggressive position, attacking the pawn. I'll maybe just go maybe king g6, king h5, just to force white to defend the king side and then move the pawns on the queen side. But at this point, I think we can just do anything. The position is so much won. I don't like. I would not play king e7. I would prefer king g6 over it because now white can play king knight g3, and maybe there will be some exchanges. We don't like the exchanges when we have two extra pawns in tonight's endgame. Knight g3 is a necessary move, of course. White has to play knight g3. King c3 is played instead. King c4 is not good, definitely. At this point, white already the knight g3 was just essentially the only move. On king c6 is a mistake, I think. b5 check was winning very easy. Knight g3, and now we'll play knight g7 or what? What's the plan? Knight g7 already looks. Oh no, not this exchange. Oh no, why did we give up the h6 pawn? This was not necessary. Black is not even winning, I think, in this position. No, it's painful to watch. Knight e4 check, king e4, why? King e4 was a mistake as well. King c4 was winning. King c2, and now will not win, I think. It is going elsewhere. King going to d2, knight going to d2, king b5, king e2, now knight e2. That's the only chance, the last call to win this game. And will not win it seems like. Knight takes a3, and it's over. No, knight d4 is played. Let's go, let's try to win it. King a4. Well, that's too risky. I can't count it till the end. Maybe it was winning, but maybe it wasn't. I think it wasn't. I'm sorry, guys. You maybe think that I'm just too rude when I talk about the end games, but I just can barely believe it. I'm sorry once again. Maybe I have to react Like more calmly, more respectful. I'll try my best. Queen g6. So we're looking at Pinkamena game. E takes f3. Oh, Pinkamena actually has a really nice position. We'll take the g4 pawn. Oh wow, queen takes f3. Why will you do such a move? Now she has an extra rook. And that means that once again we're going to go back to Fatality. She took a berserk. The opponent is very low rated. And Fatality actually gained one ranking point. Now she's 7th place. f4. Mm. F E takes f4. h3 is played. Bishop f5, g4, bishop e6, f5, bishop d7, bishop takes f6. Now we'll take the d5 pawn. Oh no, we won't, because queen e5 will be played. Oh, and that means that we didn't have to take on f6. This was maybe a mistake. Two bishops are very scary in this kind of positions. And the king side is very opened. d4 is a mistake, I think. Because now the dark squared bishop is not this kind of a threat. d4 pawn absolutely blocks it. And our knights become much more strong. Oh, and actually f6 is even played. Wow, that's huge. Now we'll play knight f4. No, knight f4 was better, I think. And then knight d5. I actually think this was huge. But that's difficult when you have 1 minute and play in the berserk. That's still nice, I would say. We can still play knight e2 to f4. Maybe even knight g3 was better now. Knight g3 was much better, yeah. But knight f4 is just the move that you first think of. Because that was the initial idea. Knight e5. Knight h5 check. Now rook f6 maybe can be played. No, bishop e4 instead. Now maybe queen will go to d2, then rook f6, then queen h6. Some combination like this. f5 is played. I think f5 is a nice move, but g takes f5. Maybe it was slightly better to take with the bishop. I'm not sure. f5 was actually a good idea because now black has some counterplay. Bishop c6 is a strange move. I think that rook g8 check was the idea. That move is even more strange because now we can't even play rook g8. So the bishop defends the g8 square. c6 now has to be played, of course. Rook b8, wow. Queen d2, I think, has to be played. Queen d2 and then go to h6. Rook b1 looks very doubtful. I would be scared of c6 now. Actually, we'll have the queen b7 move after c6. Maybe it's not this threatening. No, queen b7, let's go, you can do it. No, bishop e4. Still not bad, because rook g8 check doesn't lead to something really worrying. Queen b8 is a relief for white. I wonder that why it didn't exchange on b8. I think that we'll have a very nice endgame, but maybe white is thinking that 24 seconds is not going to be enough. Knight g7. Oh wow, actually this is working. This is a very good idea from Fatality because now she's going to checkmate black. I don't see the defense. It's very nice play from young Fatality. Congratulations. So we are back in the tournament. That's good to see. So Fatality is starting a new game. She's 5th place. E5 then G6. That's some like openings that I have last seen when I was like 8 maybe. Of course, this is not decent. Castling. I used to like to play something like H4, H5 and try to rush it. Fatality is playing calmly and slowly. Queen E8. So black is just going away from the pin. I don't like black's position. It's not looking really good. I would just not play bishop h6. I don't think that this is a good exchange for us. Maybe a4. Try to make some space. Yeah, that's nice. Just don't let black to do anything. Knight goes to c6. So what's the call? Maybe rook b1 even can be considered. Then b4 and b5. Oh, we exchange on f6, trying to go knight d5 and then b4. Well, the idea looks interesting, but I think that the cold-minded and cold-hearted computer will say that all this is just nothing and it's not working and the position is absolutely dead equal. But I like the idea. Now we can play queen h6, yeah. This is actually looking dangerous. We can play h4, then knight g5. And if this exchange happens, this is really huge. What's the move for black? I think black has to play bishop e6. Oh no, knight takes e7. Wow, this was the idea. This is really beautiful. Knight takes e7 wins the game. Fatality, I hope that this was your initial idea and you can find it. Let's go. Knight takes e7. Yeah, that's nice. That's what you like to see. So the combination for the viewers, some tactical lessons from the Fatality. That's a very good game. I wonder if Fatality. I wonder if this game even don't have even a minor mistake in it. This is looking beautiful. Queen e7 is played and we can just take the rook. Or maybe Fatality thinking about something even more cruel. Oh, she'll be happy to take the rook. f5. I don't think that there are really some chances here. f5. We can maybe just play rook d1, h4, just whatever. h4. I'll play h4, I think. Then knight g5. Just secure it. Maybe even h5 will be an idea. We'll see. I think h4 is nice. Queen goes to e3, f4, queen b3. Oh, that maneuver is like the res commission for the knight on a8. That's the other way to win this kind of positions. Just play for material. There is knight a5 move that can cause some problems, but I don't think that this will be enough. We can just play queen a2, and then we'll have the c5 check idea. And this might be enough. c5, then knight b6, and we'll save knight without any troubles. Also, while knight is standing on a5, black has no place to move his bishop on d8 and attack the knight, actually. So our knight is feeling relatively safe. b4 is played. Now maybe b5 is the next move. Oh, g4, actually. B takes a5, g takes f3. I wonder if this was really necessary. Because now maybe we can lose our knight. I think this was a mistake. But we still have a relatively easy victory here. Can just play queen g4 check, for example. c5, nice. Rook takes e8, the exchange happens. So at least white gains some momentum to find some advantages while black has to take the knight. Queen b3 check was easily winning this game right now. Rook b1 is played instead, and rook d1. Well, this is still too easy. Rook and the pawn against the bishop, and black's king is just has no safe haven. Just struggling to find cover. We'll just play rook d7, I think. Yeah. Now queen f7 can be counted. I think even queen takes b7 is winning at this point. f3. Maybe we can just play like queen takes f3. No, queen f7 instead. Queen h6. And just don't play rook b1 to b7. This will be a blunder. Queen takes f3. That's a safe call. Don't have to count anything. Yeah. Now just play g3. And there are no more ideas for black. h3 is nice. A little bit worse, I would say. Because sometimes black will have a perpetual check idea. The bishop is also not playing right now. Rook d6, check, king h2, and queen f6 is the idea. And it can't be countered in any way. Black will have to play queen g5, I think. And white will happily play queen f6 check and secures the victory in this game. Queen h6 for some reason. Yeah, that's a desperation. Or a misclick, if there's any difference actually. So let's watch one Pinkamena game now. Until it's competitive once again. While it's competitive, I mean. She can take on e5 now. Yeah, that's it. Now the material is equal. White has some attack, but I think black has enough resources to defend from it. Or she really had to play knight g4. The knight on g4 was really well placed. And now I'm scared. Now h5 is looking really dangerous. And it's not only looking dangerous, it is dangerous, actually. e5. e5 is a good move because when you're attacked on the flank, you have to find some counterplay in center That's a well-known chess rule, but maybe it's too late because now white can at least play bishop take g6. And so many ideas, so many dangerous checkmate ideas now are on the cards. I think bishop e8 maybe the best move. Oh no, it's not maybe even working. So it's not that easy. Maybe knight h7. Knight h7 is fine. Queenside castle. But what if black plays queen takes g5? Isn't that enough to defend from all the threats? Maybe it is. So let's see what white has in his mind. Maybe rook takes d5. I don't think that rook takes d5 is actually enough. Because of like 95 maybe. E takes f4. I think that rook takes f4 was actually much better because we'll have a threat. Now we don't. But maybe that's a way to defend from all this. Queen takes f5. Now rook d3 is essentially the only move. What? Rook takes d5? Why? White are happy to exchange queens for some reason, and now rook f2 check, and we actually have a victorious endgame. What a turnaround. Rook takes g2, rook d7 check. Oh, it was better maybe to take on b2 instead. White's king is in danger, I would say. Rook d8 check, I would like to play. Yeah. Now, rook takes b2, I think is fine. On knight e5, maybe this is too much because the king finds a place on b3. Maybe rook d2 could be played now. Rook d7 instead. And rook g6. I actually like this. Rook takes d7, knight takes d7, rook h7. Now just king e6. Let's go. We have to put our king to the play. Rook h4. King e6 once again has to be played. No, knight c5 instead. Pinkamena, please. Let's go. Let's put our king to the play. It's too far away. That's a very common mistake when the children play endgame. They just underestimate the king. a5 is a blunder of knight d3 check. Or maybe it's not. Knight a6 check is more safe, I think. No, why? That's even a blunder of the b6 pawn. Now rook h6 can be played. Oh my god. These girls, they really need some endgame lessons. And why does king even go to g5? Knight c5 check. The only hope now is that white can blunder something. Rook b5 is an easy draw now. Rook b4 is played. White is playing for the win. It's the worst possible positioning of the pieces. Guys, I'm so worried now. What if black just plays rook b8 now? And then b4. Please don't go to a4. I beg you. No! Rook b8. And then knight c5 will be met with b4. No, b3 is played. Knight b2 check. Just look at the b2 knight. This is like easily the worst place for the knight to be. Black have to put their pieces in the right places now. If they don't manage to do it, the game is lost. King f6 has to be played. That's an easy call. You have to move your king to help you. King goes to d2, knight goes to f2. f6. No, rook f5 is played. Well, that's decent. Okay. Now king f4 maybe even can be played. Black is just playing, not playing chess, black is playing checks. And once again, knight f6 is the worst possible place to move your knight, because now rook g7 was even cutting off the king. You see the last like 20 moves, the king is standing still on g5 and is not even trying to help the pieces for some reason that we'll never know. This is so painful. You can't even imagine this, guys. See, I really love end games, and I spent like most of my chess career studying end games, and this is real pain to watch this. We had like 30 moves, and the king is still on g5. Why? Just why? Oh my god, let's go back to Fatality, guys. I'm just so tilted. Uh, what we have here? Black has an extra exchange. White has an absolute positional dominance, but it's not enough for an exchange, I think. Maybe it's enough for this position to be equal, but of course white is not really looking for a win. If black manages to move the king to the king side, I think black's plan is to play like king f7, king e8, king d8, and just go away from there. The exchange happens on g5. Now knight h7. Black couldn't play queen h6 because of d6 check. King h8, yeah, that's maybe a nice move because now we have some queen h6 ideas. But we have to defend the 8th rank first. No, now queen d8 check will be possible. No, we really have a rough time, aren't we? There are still some chances. Let's go. Queen e3 check, rook a2 check is possible. We still can win this. It's not over yet. Sadly, I don't think the good ideas here. Maybe queen h6 check and then rook h2 is fine. Let's go. Rook h2. Yeah. If there are some chances, this is a move, I think. d6 is played. Yeah, d6 is a good move. I think rook a7 is essentially necessary. Queen f4, no, that's not enough. Queen d2 can be played, but that's already not enough because the knight on g3 defends the knight from all the plays. That's a typical situation. King goes to f4. Let's go to f4. Maybe black will not find the checkmate. White exchanges, actually. And rook d7. Oh, and king takes e4 is even better. Or maybe not. King d3 now. King d3. Let's go. c4 is played. Maybe that's even better. d7. Rook a8. Now king d3 is essential. This we have to make this move. King f4. a4. Maybe that's our best bet. Knight h5 is awful. King f6. And knight e6. Oh no. Oh no. That's such a drama. We need one more tempo and we don't have it. Oh, that's really unlucky. And white has the pawn, and that's enough. Oh, this is really painful. Oh, XX, Mr. 1XX. Thank you for your support. I really appreciate it. It's I really happy to know that you like my comments. I try my best. Let's stick with Fatality. She's 9th place. Knight f3, d5, d4. Maybe that's Catalan opening. Maybe Queen's Gambit. Let's see what it is. c4. We still don't know. e6. Now that's the decider move. Knight c3. So we play Queen's Gambit declined. Oh, it's a Ragozin defense. Bishop b4. I myself play Queen a4 check here. Knight c6 and Bishop g5, but I'm not really successful in this kind of position. Maybe I can find some new ideas from Fatality, but seems like she doesn't know how to play here. And I don't know as well. Bishop d2. Maybe there is such variation, I'm not sure. For me, it looks like quite an easy quality for black. Black has an idea of exchanging but black did take with the pawn. I don't think that that's a good position to do so. There's a viable idea to play for this kind of pawns, but not exactly in this position. Well, it ended well. I think the position is relatively equal. I would give white a little bit of an advantage. D takes c5 is a nice move. I like this. Because knight takes c3 definitely ruins white's pawn structure, but not as much as it seems like. That's a very usual pawn structure. In the queen, it always often happens in Queen's Gambit declined or some other positions with the isolated pawn. I think that white has at least an equal position here. Maybe can look for something more. Rook b1 is played. Rook is maybe rotating to d4. Knight e4 played. Now we can play queen d4. We couldn't in the previous move because of knight b3. Queen d3 is played. So the d4 square is left for the knight, I assume. Rook f to c1 maybe is possible, or rook b to c1. We have to choose now. Rook b to c1 looks better for me. From a tactical perspective, maybe. Rook f to c1 is played. So maybe Fatality knows better. Rook e8. I think we have to make some move like h3 maybe. Just keep our last rank a little bit more safe. To have opportunity to convert some ideas like rook b4, rook d4. I would say it's quite dangerous to do this kind of moves without some room for the king to go. Some window. Knight d2 is too passive. I don't like this move because the exchange on e4 leads to a rook endgame that is not going to be good. Fatality may think that this will be equal, but it's not the case. Black can just play g6 and chill. Oh, knight goes to c5. Now we can play queen f5 maybe. Queen d4 instead. Knight e6 is played. And we can play queen g4. And g4 square will be really good for our queen, yeah, because the knight can never attack the queen here. We'll have to make a lot of moves to do so. Queen goes to f6. And c4 is played. So white is playing for equality now, but black has a d4 idea. Yeah, that's a move that's made. We actually have 12 minutes left in the tournament. d4. Yeah, black really has an advantage now. Oh, and h5 is played. Wow. That's some real tactics here. Queen takes h5, and now knight takes d4. Oh, knight f4, I mean, and then knight e2 check. This is very strong. Wait, guys, a little bit. I'm just checking this guy. What is the move? King f1, queen h6? Oh no, guys. She's definitely playing against a cheater. I am almost sure. You see, this guy has a new profile. She have won every game in this tournament, and the guy never makes move like h5. No one ever will make move like h5 instead of knight takes d4, and no one ever will make the move queen h6 instead of knight takes c1. That's not how people play chess. This guy is definitely a cheater. I am absolutely sure. Someone used to ask me in one of my streams how to like find out that someone's cheating. Let me just open the analysis here. And I'm absolutely sure that there will be no mistakes. Yeah, 7 average centipound loss. This guy's a cheater. We have to report him. So don't be sad. This game will never count. This guy will be banned just after the tournament. Knight f6, c4, e6, knight c3, bishop b4. That's a Nimzovich defense. Knight f3, that's your usual variation. Bishop g5. Oh, poor fatality. That's just so unfair. Exchange on t3, queen e7. Bishop d3, e5. Guys, I wonder if the Chess Fight Night administrators are listening to my comments right now. Please write in the chat that the previous opponent of Fatality, the Veliska Marko 4. Oh no, it's this guy. Yeah, him. Like Veliska Marko 4, that he's cheating. Please write this on the chat for them to see. Bishop f5. You can say that that I am saying that this guy is cheater. The commentator is saying. They will believe me, I think. Rook e8. I just want this guy to be banned, just not for him not to ruin the tournament for other guys. Castling. Knight f8. So exchange will happen. Rook b1. So yeah, that's a typical Nimzovich position. So there is some kind of block on the queen side. White usually have some ideas like c5 maybe. Maybe knight e2 can be played with the idea of knight e4. I don't think that this was dangerous. I think that we can even trick white and place maybe c5 and meet knight f4 with g5. I think that was a spicy idea. Oh, but no, that the b6 pawn will be hanging, yeah. Maybe that was not working. Well, at least this would be funny. Queen goes to f3. Now we can go queen g5, I think. Or maybe not. Maybe it's better to exchange. We have a very nice pawn structure for an endgame. No, queen e6 is played. Queen c6. Oh, the queen is really in danger here. Maybe we can play e4 and try to catch the queen by playing like f5, then knight e7. No, f5 is played. That's a safe bet, yeah. Yeah, the games that you see right now. So yeah, rook b5 is played. Now the exchange may happen, but I think Fatality don't like to exchange on d5 because she thinks that white will take with the c pawn. Queen goes to f6. So I think that maybe Fatality is looking for the same idea that I was talking about. e4 and knight e7. Oh, now c6 is threatened. Queen c6 is played. And now I can think that I think that maybe e4 really makes sense. e4 and that knight e7. Fatality chooses a different move order. Plays knight e7 first. And then maybe e4. Or maybe she doesn't want to play e4 at all. I think e4 is decent, yeah. e4 is played. Now we'll have the ideas like f4. Or maybe, no, there is a nice idea. Maybe knight g6, knight h4, queen g5, something like this. Well, this position is still very, very difficult to play. White still have some counterplay, playing maybe like c5. The big advantage for black is that white's knight on d2 is like absolutely useless right now. I think we have to activate the c8 rook. I like the rook b8 move actually. Because now the b6 pawn is defended and this reduces some ideas for white. c5 becomes less likely. Also, we can maybe even think about c5 or something like this. Queen h5 is a waste of time. We can just play g6. Now just king g7 maybe. Then plan something like h5, h4. Yeah, that's nice. Oh, white is playing f3. Wow. Opening the game a little bit. Knight can go to c6 maybe. Oh, maybe black is scared of e4. Decides to play c6. Maybe now it's on d5. Oh, actually, that's a very interesting idea because, as you see, we are planning to take with the knight on d5, not with the pawn. Now the c3 pawn is hanging, and e3 also. Queen goes to d3. There is a knight c4 idea for white, and maybe then to e5. But we have time to play queen g5, for example. Queen e6 is looking a little bit worse because it doesn't stop white from playing knight c4. But maybe we have queen e4 in our mind. Queen e4 is looking decent, really. Yeah, I think that queen e4 is good. Or maybe we can even think about... No, maybe b5 is too much. I don't think that we have... Oh no, maybe yeah, maybe b5 is working. Rook e7 is played. No, I think we wasted some very important time. We let white play knight e5. That's a huge factor. Likely white didn't use this opportunity quick enough. Oh, and rook b7. This is really not a good looking move. And that's a sacrifice from white. or a blunder rather. So black got lucky here. But now I have to counter this attack, and with 22 seconds left, it may not be too easy. The b5 was really strange. Black is wasting important times. Had to like make some defensive moves. Instead, just plays b5. I don't think that it possibly will ever be time to move the a pawn far enough for it to be like useful. And now the position looks really scary. Now white can play rook f3, yeah. Queen e3 maybe. Knight f3 is threatening as well. So black had to consolidate, but missed this opportunity. Oh, and queen takes g5 is huge. White blundered a nice and easy combination, and now is about to lose. Black will just play b4 now. Yeah, b4 is easy. Then b3, b2. And that's the end of that. Rook b1. And rook b2. Yeah, that's nice. Even some nice technique in the end. We have 15 seconds left, so the tournament is essentially over. We can watch the last game that Pinkamena is playing. She's down a minor piece for the pawn. She has to avoid the queen's exchange, maybe try her luck, maybe find some perpetual check. Oh, and white blundered the a4 pawn, but Pinkamena didn't use this opportunity. She has 1 minute and 36 seconds, but she is like in a hurry for some reason. White give up the a4 pawn once again. Pinkamena doesn't make the same mistake twice. Exchanges now. White really struggled to find some safe haven for the king. Pinkamena offers draw. Oh, and white agrees. Yeah, I think maybe that's a viable decision. I think that white's position is victorious, but who cares? The tournament is already over. Thank you for watching, guys. This is really unlucky that our experience was ruined by some blatant cheaters. This is really sad. But as it's our tournament, we'll ban this guy maybe and try our best for this not to happen anytime soon. Yeah, nice tournament. Thank you, guys. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Maybe in Monday and maybe even sooner. Maybe on Wednesday, on Sunday, whatever. Just keep in touch and you won't miss your opportunities to watch how the young talents play. Goodbye. Русским зрителям тоже спасибо, которые смотрят.